Attention on deck. Welcome to the Warships Podcast with your hosts, Kelord, Kami Samurai, and Vanacera.
Hello and welcome to episode 49 of the Warships Podcast. I'm back from vacation in California and we have quite a bit to talk about today. First, let's get a quick recap of our visit last week. Thursday, we arrived at Wargaming headquarters and spent the afternoon touring the USS Hornet Museum with Trevzor and Nico Power. After that, we recorded the podcast in their office studio, and again, we had some of the recording difficulties that we mentioned last week. Friday, we were on Warships Live with Tragic, Trevzor, and Nico. You can still see the episode on Facebook, the World of Warships NA Facebook page, and watch us drink some pretty awful flavored sodas. Kami, what kind of stood out to the most to you about our visit?
Just how nice everybody from Wargaming was. They're very accommodating to us. They thanked us for coming when they were the ones that were hosting us. So I have to say, just how nice Trevzor and Nico and everybody was, Pigeon and Tragic, and how easy they were to talk to. When you think about they're the people on the forums or the people that we communicate for competitive or whatever, that you would think they'd be kind of, hard to talk to, but really they're just normal people, just like you and I.
Vanessa, did you have a good time seeing us drink that stuff on Facebook?
Well, I was definitely glad I did not have to consume any of those, what looked to be pretty awful products by the looks and expressions on your faces. But yeah, jealous. I really wish I could have gone, but maybe next year. If we do like a second year anniversary or something.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, they definitely were open to the idea of us coming back, that's for sure. Don't you think, Kami?
Yeah, I mean, I only live a couple hours away, so whenever we wanted to schedule it again, I'm good to go.
Yeah, you're kind of lucky on that side. So, I mean, one of the things I was thinking about when I was there, Kami, is just, they have a pretty impressive, office space. They have a really cool area to be in. That I think makes a difference when it comes to, the way that they work and the way that Wargaming talks to people and is involved in the community,
Yeah, it seems like they had a pretty, I don't know if I would say tight-knit group because we didn't get to meet everyone, but it seems like, from upper management to even, the security, it seems like they were all pretty friendly. So I'd have to say that they had a nice working environment, which would make it, besides working on video and working with video games all day, you still got to have a nice place to work. And it seems like, Wargaming does a great job in supplying them with stuff and keeping them happy.
It's funny, it's for those that don't know, none of the podcast crew had met each other before we went to Wargaming. So I met Kami for the first time while we were at Wargaming. And it was funny, Kami, you and I sitting in the back of Trevzor's car just chattering on about the Fuso. And then Nico and Trevzor just looking at us like, these guys are such nerds.
Yeah, but I mean, I think people... as long as we've known each other, and then as long as we've talked to Nico and Trevzor, it was easy. It's easy to talk to them. It's not an awkward situation. And it's only awkward if you make it that way. And I think we just friends are friends.
No, I totally agree. It's funny. I actually played a few rounds of PUBG with Trevzor since we've been back, so it's been fun.
Oh man, I keep forgetting to add him. I hate the Steam friends list.
It's awful. It's just terrible.
They shouldn't allow people to have the same name. I don't ever understand that. But yeah, I'll have to add him. I keep forgetting.
Yeah, no, it's fun. We played a game last night, so it's funny that we go there to do World of Warships, and then all we talked about was PUBG for a while. So Vanessa, you found a post from Condley on the EU server in regards to the smoke changes that were on the Super Test, but doesn't sound like they are coming to fruition. Could you give us a quick rundown of what he said and why?
Absolutely. So basically Wargaming came out and talked to, the community about the revision with the smoke. And basically, it's for those of you who don't know, Wargaming has been super testing some smoke changes that would dramatically change the way that smoke is kind of worked with in the game environment. And so if you were sitting in smoke and firing your guns, every time you fired your guns would basically reduce the cooldown, the active cooldown of that smoke screen that you were sitting in. So, needless to say, the community has been very vocal about this, and Wargaming came out, candidly, came out with a statement not too long ago, basically saying, hey, we're testing this. We do this in the super test environment to test changes to the game or perspective changes to the game in which we feel, might be good, might not be good, but we need to test it. And so it came out with a statement and said, this will not be in 0.6.9 as far as the changes. Smoke is still going to be the same going into 0.6.9 as we know it now, but it's still going to be testing under further reviews. So a very interesting statement and a very interesting turn of events going on with, the whole smoke meta and smoke changes that a lot of people are, concerned about whether they want the change or not want the change.
Well, I mean, there's a couple points that I wanted to bring up. We talked about this actually last week on the podcast and on Warships Live, actually, which I was surprised about to some degree because, it's leaks. But the thing is that, one, I firmly believe that some kind of change to smoke is needed because the way it is in the game right now is unbalancing. And two, I really want to remind people that using especially leaked super test changes to base your opinion is a really dangerous thing. And I would really encourage people not to do that because these leaks are coming from people who are not supposed to be providing this information. And when you talk, it's supposed to be internal testing so that they can try and figure out what to do next. Sometimes when you do internal testing, you do things that are very, very drastic just to see what happens. And so now the problem is that we have these people that are like, oh my God, if this comes live, it's going to break the game. Well, maybe you're right and maybe you're wrong, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it is coming. And so reacting in the way that those are the changes that are coming, it's bad for the game because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what the final changes are going to be. So I always try and caution people about stuff like that.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think, oftentimes we don't see the overall picture that Wargaming is trying to do, and so we only see little snapshots here and there. And oftentimes overreact, I think, and, especially with the other things, like, when we talked about, the RPF and, some of the other changes. Remember the bow on changes? And so these things need to be tested, and they need to see if they actually work, if they don't work, and if they don't work, how much, does it affect the game? And if it does work, how much does it affect the game? I mean, this, we can't evolve the game unless we test things. I mean, it's a trial and error. It's not a perfect science to making this. So, while I'm always for feedback and, hey, let's improve things and always try and be open to ideas, we still need to be able to test. And I was going to kind of draw an analogous to, I think in tanks, don't they have like is it called the sandbox? I'm not 100% up on it, but
I believe it's called the sandbox, and I haven't played with it, but I know that they do really crazy stuff there.
Yeah, like I remember, I think it was like 4 or 5 months ago, they did some radical changes to artillery, and people were, all over the place with this, but it's like, hey, at least in the sandbox, everyone knows that, hey, we're just testing things because it's the sandbox and we just want to see what happens when we test this. I almost wonder if Wargaming might want to consider that for World of Warships to, give a place where we can test things, radically test things, and then give feedback on it.
I would definitely be for something like that because it would give us, a lot of ways to do some pretty crazy things, really. Kami, I guess what are your feelings on? Do you feel like there should be a change to smoke in this game, or do you think that the way it is acceptable?
Well, as Clorin said, these are all leak changes, so we're going to go from that. But do I think smoke needs changed? Yeah, when you play even tier 8 competitive play, right? How often do you see enemy ships? I feel like most of the time you don't see enemy ships, right? Because they're hidden in smoke. Same with ranked. Not so much this season, I don't feel, but typically a regular season, battleships go to one spot and the DDs just rotate smoke on them. And depending on what country the smoke is from, American smoke lasts forever. So I do think smoke needs a change. I feel like ships needs a way to go a little bit faster, if that makes sense to you guys. Like it needs a little bit of impetus to move. And smoke, the way it is right now, doesn't allow that. I mean, in randoms, we always bring a DD, like in the division, and then we just go set up in our Des Moines or whatever it is and smoke them up, and they just sit there and farm damage. And I think if this game, Vanessa said it best when she said that the game constantly is going to change. And to be honest with you guys, the sky isn't going to fall. I mean, the game didn't magically disappear when RPF came around. It didn't magically disappear when open water stealth firing went away. It didn't go away with the bow on changes. I mean, it's going to be a change, and you're going to have to adapt. And I look forward to it. Especially for competitive play. I think it's going to make it a lot better. You just won't have ships sitting in the same spot and hiding islands, and you'll probably have if it goes through, or it may never go through. We don't know because these are all leaks. But if it does, it'll definitely add a change. If it doesn't, I guess we'll still just be hiding behind our islands and our smoke.
I guess I was more talking, does it need a change in general? Not necessarily the changes that they were talking about, but is there some kind of change that should happen with smoke? One thing quickly before we pivot to Vanessa is one of the things that I noticed when we were talking with Trevzor last week, Kami, is that one of the barriers, I guess, to World of Warships being more of an esport type of thing is that how slow the game is. That there's a solid chunk of 3 or 4 minutes at the beginning of the game that nothing happens. Yet at the same time, that 3 or 4 minutes can really determine how the game plays out because if you position correctly, it makes a big difference. Now, we talk about in esport types of games, if you talk about CSGO or you talk about in my brother and I played Destiny, it's always about what's the lowest time to kill weapons. And, they're talking about time to kill in a matter of seconds or less, but in warships, the time to kill is an enormous amount of time. So I think that's if we can lower the average time to kill, I think that might make the game a little more exciting. Vanessa, did you have something to throw in?
Yeah, I was, going to kind of comment on, I always felt that smoke, really should have been used for its intended purpose. And that was to basically screen movement, and, block line of sight. And, with the game being able to allow you to, sit in it and fire out and see out of it, I always thought that was a bit strange. And I don't know how wargaming goes from here, but yeah, the game's constantly going to evolve. They're going to try different things. They're going to, do different things. And as far as like the time to kill and setup, that's one of the things that I actually really enjoy about this game. And it may never make the perfect esports game, but I actually like those first couple of minutes. I like the setup. I like okay, this is how our fleet is forming and, setting up our attack and defense plan. And then you meet the enemy and then you kind of figure out what they are doing and then what you are doing. How are you reacting and changing it? That's one of the things that I really like about World of Warships. So I don't know how you can preserve that and move on towards a really good, esport competitive environment that, is really conducive to both. But for me personally, I actually kind of like the way that the game is with that lengthy setup. And Kami, I wanted to ask you, as a super tester, what do you feel would be good, kind of, with all these leaks going on? Do you feel like a sandbox where everyone could kind of opt in and participate and give feedback would be good? Or would you, based on your experience as a super tester, what do you feel you would like to see going on with all this, with the leaks and the testing, and maybe how to improve testing?
Well, yeah, I about the leaks. I mean, I don't think it matters if you're a super tester, a CC, or just a regular player. Those aren't going to stop, right? But a sandbox would be kind of cool. But I don't know if that would give you, because I don't know if that would give you the data that you're looking for. Really, Wargaming just needs to put a stop to whoever's doing the leaking. But I mean, if they haven't put a stop to it to this point, I don't think they're gonna. I don't think they're gonna do it unless it gets completely way out of hand and they're leaking, like super important things, I guess. But a sandbox would be kind of cool. I don't know. I don't play tanks, so I know that they had like a sandbox type of thing on there. I wish we had someone that played more tanks, but I'd have to ask like Yoda Man or something. But I don't know.
We'll get Tragic to come on here and talk about it.
Yeah, that actually she would be great to have on the show. Maybe in the future we get her and Fem on the show together or something like that, because I know they have a pretty good rapport. So, but that's for another day. But for the super test thing, I don't know. As long as Wargaming doesn't put a stop to it, I don't think the leaks are going to stop. Right? I mean, and having all these different servers, NA, EU, SEA. RU, and then the Chinese server. I mean, and if I remember right, doesn't Wargaming, they don't even moderate the Chinese server, right? Isn't that like another company? Or
there's a lot of legal things that go on the Chinese server because of the the Great Firewall and all that stuff. So it's kind of its own thing, and there's a lot of issues that kind of stem because of it.
Yeah, so I mean, they might not even be able to moderate that server. Wargaming as a whole might not be able to because of all the other things that are involved. So I would just say, like we said before, just wait until it's actually in the patch notes before you start making, the sky is falling or, oh man, that looks awesome. Just wait till it's official before you make that decision.
So before we move on to talking about the Yamamoto and the patch 0.6.9 patch notes on the PTS, I wanted to take a quick moment and talk about Graf Zeppelin. Hey, I got the name right this time. I played a few games in it over the weekend, Kami, and is it me or is the torpedo armament of that thing just absolutely out of control? All
right, before we go any further, we're just going to say it's a work in progress. And
thank you very much, Kami.
It could be subject to change, but the Graf Zeppelin I found to be hilariously fun. The fighters were kind of but the torp bombers were hilarious, even like against Bismarcks that didn't have any AA. Or ships like that. I mean, I went in and just, because the torpedoes arm so quickly, you can just go right up next to the Bismarck, just drop all the torpedoes, and they're nasty. They do so much damage. I mean, I had 130,000 damage or something like that in 2 drops. That's ridiculous. And I don't play CV. I still struggle launching my planes to get into the right spot. So if I can do that, imagine what a skilled CV player can do. But the pattern is very interesting. It doesn't leave a lot of if you can get that middle line lined up, you're going to hit a lot of torpedoes. The only thing I noticed
it's also difficult. It's also difficult for destroyers to dodge. Is in my opinion.
Yeah, because the way it's set up, it seems like it has less room than the Enterprise, and the Enterprise torpedoes. We've talked about those before and how wide they were, and DDs could just go in and out of them. But this ship is interesting because you get so many torpedoes. And the fighters do just enough to prevent enemy fighters from getting to your torpedo bombers. The one thing I did notice was the planes seemed kind of slow. I don't know if you guys noticed that when you were playing it. And
it didn't seem terrible. I mean, it's at 7-8 speed.
And they're a little frail.
Vanessa, did you get a chance to play the Graf Zeppelin?
Oh, yes, I have played this ship, and I have been looking forward to this ship for quite a while, as well as the hopefully one day just speculating. We'll see Aquila, because Italian carrier. Oh my God. Like, I was so happy when I got this and started testing it, and have really been putting it through its paces. I love the ship, but I am also really disappointed as well. And the disappointment comes with the beloved ME-109. And, like, why? Why is it... And I was talking to Little White Mouse about it, and she brought up a good point. It's like, look, you're looking at a fighter that they're basing it off of the ME-109E, even though it's the T model that they specifically made, but basically a circa 1939-1940 fighter going up against 43 and 44 era fighters. So, yes, I want the fighters to, like, be amazing. I want to be able to do, like, amazing, air superiority and get some good strikes in. And so, yeah, the torpedoes are great. Why we don't have dive bombers with Stukas I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. Maybe, like, if I were doing things, I would probably have, like, dive bombers, torpedoes, and fighters. Make the fighters a little better, and maybe change out one of those torp groups for a dive bomber group, or maybe 2 dive bomber groups, a torp group. I don't know. But in its current iteration, the ship itself is very nice. Really good turning, really good rudder.
Yeah, it felt very agile when moving around the map.
Oh, yes. And the secondary batteries are hilarious. Oh, my God.
I was waiting for you to say that.
If you get someone on your starboard side, it's so hilarious, the amount of secondaries that are going off. And I haven't tried a secondary build yet, but I might just alter a captain just to see what it's like to have a secondary build going on. But the cross pattern with the torpedo groups is crazy. If you go and you take all 3 torpedo groups and you go in and torp something, you're either going to outright sink it or put it to where it just has like 1,000 hit points left. I deleted so many carriers who were really just not expecting what was about to happen. And I deleted battleships. I'd find battleships right at the start that were, this felt like CBT, end of alpha CBT, where, you found that
the
battleship.
Midway and the Essex. That's what it kind of felt like, where it's just delete.
No cruiser nearby to help you, and just delete. And that's what the Graf Zeppelin feels like. At the moment, if the enemy carrier is not on top of their fighters and track you down, whatever you go up, even like, Yamato, even like tier 10, okay, just fight, bring all your torps in, put your torps out there, and you're going to do serious damage, even in tier 10 AA. Stark difference from the Enterprise, which, has those fighters, even though they're tier 7, and it's like, they're Hellcats. Why? Anyway, I'm going to go on a rant forever about this. I like the carrier. I want improvements. I wish they would change it up, but I still like it. So I'll leave it at that.
The funny thing to me is that, the Graf Zeppelin seems like it's going to be a pub monster. Like, just go in there into random battles and just stomp people. But at the same time, I was watching a video from Arun, who talked about the fact that the Graf Zeppelin is 100% alpha damage. There's really no good way to get damage over time out of the loadout that it has. So he talked about that. It's just, if you come up with something, if the opposite carrier is like a Strike Lexington, you're just going to murder everything on the map. But if you go up against an Enterprise or a balanced Shokaku, or even not to mention the air superiority builds, those are going to just wreck you. Absolutely wreck you. There's nothing you can do about it for the most part because your fighters just aren't good enough. Now, at the same time, the way that it's set up makes it, in my opinion, completely useless as a competitive carrier at Tier 8. I mean, Kami, can you think of a single reason to take Graf Zeppelin as in a Supremacy League match?
Well, it's tough to know. Like a Shokaku, typically is 3-1-2, so they're going to have 3 sets of fighters. And honestly, the 109s that the Zeppelin have are pretty poor. I'm not going to get Vanessa started on them, but they're not very good.
I feel like they'd be better if they were Tier 7 because they would get the buff from the skill.
I think the biggest problem that the Zeppelin has, and it's just you have to rely so much on your torp bombers. It doesn't have a loadout like you don't have any variants in your loadout. You don't have any choices. You have to go 2 fighters, 3 torpedo bombers. That's it. You don't have an option to go, say, 3 fighters and 2 torpedo bombers, or there's no ability to change. And even when you use the captain skill that gives you an extra fighter, you still only get 5, I believe. And competitive wise, I don't know.
That's a lot of points to spend for just 1 extra fighter, and you have no extra bombers with it. So that's 4 points for 1 extra plane in that group. Yeah,
and I think I still think the Shokaku's still going to be king. I just don't see, I don't see anything changing right there for Tier 8 at least. Now in randoms,
I honestly think that a good Enterprise player might be able to outplay the 3-1-2 Shokaku. Maybe.
I think what it comes down to really, is just skill. When it comes down to the CVs, we all know that finding a good CV for competitive play or even in randoms is hard to do, and I think it's just tough to figure. If you have equally balanced CVs skill wise, I mean they're gonna punch each other, right? But the best CVs are going to be the ones that use their team to their advantage, if that makes sense. And the Enterprise is, man, like I want to like the Enterprise, but I just don't. And I'm sorry, Pigeon of War.
You saw that I left a little note on his desk last week, right? Saying the Enterprise sucks.
He
seemed a little upset about that.
Yeah, he's a nice guy though. I mean, he's like, who did this?
Well, I mean, in its current iteration, if you like carriers, even if you don't like carriers, I think that the Graf Zeppelin will be a pretty good buy. I mean, it certainly makes a lot of credits because of how much damage it does. It'll be interesting to see if it gets adjusted. I kind of expect, I don't want to say nerfed, but I kind of do expect some slight nerfs to it just because of it's pretty powerful on its current iteration if you can play it right. So, patch 0.6.9 is on the PTS to try, including the Yamamoto Isoroku Legendary Commander campaign. This will be the 3rd Legendary Commander in World of Warships after Steven Seagal and the Royal Navy Commander from the Dunkirk missions. However, Yamamoto will be significantly different in terms of skills. First, he comes straight off the bat with 15 skill points, which I think is pretty cool. But second, he has 2 exclusive talents. Now, one of the things I'm curious about is that I don't know if you have to buy these, if they're just optional ones, or if they come in addition to the other stuff. If they come in addition to the other stuff, then they're pretty powerful. The first one is called Concealed Reserves. After earning the First Blood achievement in a game, the players receive a 1 additional charge for each consumable until the battle ends. The other exclusive talent is called Second Wind. After earning the Kraken Unleashed achievement, so killing 5 players in one battle, Second Wind activates with a minus 34% time to main battery reload time, a negative 16% to torpedo reload and squadron prep time, and up to 48% of the ship's normal HP is restored within 120 seconds. This talent functions just like the standard repair party consumable. Now, getting a Kraken is not an easy thing to do. We all know that. But this is a enormous boost, particularly if you're in a situation where you're like 1-on-5 and you're trying to get your last stand achievement or whatnot. This could literally change the end of a game. I'm also solo warrior. That's it. Thank you, Vanessa. What I really don't know is I feel like this is going to be more powerful in a random battle type of setting. But Kami, is this something where you're going to have to run it on your IJN ships in competitive?
I honestly don't think so. Not in competitive, but in randoms, I think it's going to be pretty powerful. The only thing I have an issue with this is I feel like it's kind of getting to be a little too arcadey, if that makes sense to you guys. Like Seagal as a captain, I mean, yeah, he added some things to you, but they were, I don't think they were overpowered. But I mean, the Kraken part of this captain is just, I feel ridiculous, and I'm not entirely sure if it's going to be. I guess it's not going to be balanced because I mean, you don't get Krakens all the time, right? So I guess getting a Kraken should have a reward, but I don't know if it should be an in-game reward. But I really think this goes even farther than that, and I feel like the rewards for getting some of these in-game achievements needs to be changed. And that might be for another podcast, but I feel like some of just getting 10 flags for certain things or something like that need to be changed. And I think maybe this is a way that they're maybe testing something to make changes to, make additions to getting those achievements.
Yeah, so I feel, I've wanted legendary commanders, but I definitely feel that this is, I agree, it's going too arcadey. And several points that I want to make on this is in a competitive environment, anyone and everyone is going to push to the extreme limit every advantage they can possible. In my opinion, this commander would be absolutely mandatory for any IGN ship that you bring into a competitive setting. Any team can sit there and go, hey, this person is about to get knocked out. Let's have this IGN captain get the first blood so that they can get the extra consumable, on the ship. Now, is it going to be pretty difficult to get a Kraken in competitive? Yes. However, in a random battle, because you have this commander and now all of a sudden you get all these, in-game traits, it dramatically changes what's the outcome of that battle. Or it dramatically affects the outcome, I should say.
But does it really? Pumping the brakes for just a second, Vanessa. How many times have you gotten Kraken as the last kill of the game? I know I've gotten that a ton of times. Like you get a Kraken, for ending the game. The other thing I wanted to bring up is I have 54 Krakens out of 3,876 battles played. That means that I get a Kraken every 1.4% of games. I mean, Kami may be a little higher than that. We'd have to run the numbers, but that is not like that's where the balance. I feel like that's how they are saying it's balanced, and I completely agree and understand where Kami's coming from with the arcadiness. I'm kind of totally on board with you there, Kami. Yet at the same time, like the balance comes of how rare it's going to be and how rare that it's actually going to do anything. Because if you're killed, like how many. It's very unlikely that you're going to get a Kraken and you've killed 5 ships and there are still 7 ships up left in the game. You know what I mean?
Oh, I totally see that. But my other point being is now you are going to have people who constantly farm for Krakens, who maybe hold their shots and try and kill steal just to get that Kraken where, otherwise they might not have maybe had that mentality and could affect team play and team gameplay in general, especially in randoms. That's where I'm trying to go with this. If you go and, hey, I'm a destroyer, say you're a Khabarovsk, and, go and, I'm going to pick off this target, pick off that target. And, now I've got a Kraken and now I've healed up, now I've got 33% faster on top of, I presume you might be using adrenaline rush in, other skills. And, oh wait, I'm sorry, that's IGN, so it can't be Kabaras. But you get the idea. Say you're using, Yamato or a ship, and you hold your shot so that you could almost guarantee yourself, I'm going to land the kill, instead of, dealing the damage, getting that target out, those guns out as quickly as possible. I don't know. That's the things that I'm trying to allude to as far as this ability. I don't know if this is a good thing to have. I know it's going to be rare, but, you're going to have people who are, trying to do that. And, you're going to have people trying to, get in there and get first blood. And, maybe that's what Wargaming wants. Maybe, Wargaming wants people to get, quickly into the battle and sink each other. But I don't know. I worry for team gameplay because of this ability. That's what I'm trying to allude to.
Well, to be honest with you, there's not much team gameplay in randoms anyway. I wouldn't really say much to that. But, we can go on a rant about randoms all day. But, Krakens are definitely hard to come by, even for good players. Because when you think about it, the way this game has gone the last couple months, you see a lot of steamrolls. So there's just a lot of people getting kills and pointing the other team out. And I feel like this captain, you're going to get better benefit out of the first blood part of it. But, the ships that you're going to use it in as like a DD, I mean, you're going to see, I think you're going to see a lot in the Shimakaze. You're going to see a lot in like the Yagumo/Kagero, the Kamikaze R and all of its variants. And, I like that they're adding in a unique captain, but I feel like these extra abilities are a little bit too much. But I mean, we don't know. We don't know until they're actually played with and see how they're done. Because I mean, like Kaloran said, I mean, I played 9,000 something battles in this game, and I have 215 Krakens. So I don't know the math on that, but whatever. But and first blood wise, I mean, I don't really have that many first bloods because I don't play DDs all that much. So I mean, is it going to?
You're looking at 2.4%, by the way.
I mean, I guess that's not that bad, right? What's the first blood emblem look like? I have 821 first bloods in 9,400 battles. So I guess that's kind of a few, but this captain's definitely going to be interesting. And the good thing is he's limited to IGN, as far as I know. But just wait, just think about it. Just wait till they have a Russian captain, right? And I'm I'm not saying there's going to be one. Just saying, but I like it in the sense of adding the name, because the name is important. But I don't know about the extra added abilities.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's an interesting take on it. It'll be interesting to see how it pans out. And again, it's still on the test server, so we don't know for sure if it's going to end up like that in the game. It's also worth noting that this is going to be a permanent campaign for World of Warships. It'll be the third permanent campaign after Science of Victory and Honorable Service. So you will always be able to do this campaign. Now, you also need to know that you have to complete this campaign in either Tier 9 or Tier 10 ships. And in addition to the Legendary Companion reward, we'll be unlocking alternative camouflages for the Japanese ships, which, as someone who casually detests the green camos for the IJN ships, I'm really excited.
Poop.
Oh, God, they're awful.
Camo? Yeah, it's awful.
They're awful. So one of the surprises that I saw is that we'll be unlocking a second flag slot for IJN ships as well. So you'll finally be able to run your Corgi flag and your stat flag, so I think that's very cool as well. It'll be interesting to see how and if they roll that out for other nations. So I don't know. I think that it's I like that it's going to be more campaign content. Like I like the way that they do campaigns in the game. I like that this is going to be another one. So I guess, is there any of the things in there, like it's interesting to me. One of the interesting things is at one point they flatly said that they were never going to provide a second flag slot. Yet this seems to be a softening on that particular issue.
Well, I think Wargaming might have said they would never do it, but I think they're going with that never say never attitude. But I think they're doing what the people want, right? And we've talked about this before on the cast about how Wargaming has done a pretty good job of listening to what the people want when it comes to, the Wargaming, like the mod pack that the Wargaming puts out that has, favorite mods and all the stuff they implemented into the game. I do like that they're adding more slots for cosmetics. I know that's been a big thing for a long time for people. Like, I want to be able to use my military contributor flag, but I also want to use my Corgi flag. But if you can't use them both, I got to choose the one that has the stats. Now you can use, now you'll be able to use one that has stats and one that you can just fly around and everybody go like, how'd you get that flag? But I do like the changes that they make, and I think this is good. It might just be a little thing. It might just be a little cosmetic thing, but it's definitely worth it. And when it comes to the campaigns, I haven't played ships as much as I used to. I've just got kind of burnt out on it, and as many games as I've played, and we've been focused on other things, and PUBG's happened and all that. But I still love ships, and I love the campaigns. I haven't done any of the most recent campaign for Mr. Dunkirk, but I probably should. I don't even know when that ends. Does it end pretty soon?
It's not a campaign. It's just the missions. Like, there's no campaign at all.
Oh, yeah. Well, whatever. I haven't done any of that. And then because I haven't done any of the operate, I've only done, I think, 3 of the operations or something like that. But I do like the campaigns because it requires you to do different things, and it requires you to play different ships and focus on different aspects of the game. And I think those are good. And you don't have like a time limit to finish them. They're if people haven't finished the original campaigns, I think they're still there, right? You could still do like honorable service or whatever it's called.
Yeah. So it's a permanent campaign. So
and the permanent campaigns I think add to the game, and maybe it'll draw some more people back. And it's tough because right now the summer's happening and everybody wants to go outside and do things like that, and I expect population on the server to increase. When fall and winter happens, but the campaigns are great for the game. They're great for new players, and because you said you have to be 9s and 10s for this one, right? Kalorn?
That's correct. So it's even higher bar than the honorable service.
So it's good because then it gives since it's permanent, it's going to give some of the players something to strive for if they haven't reached that 9 and 10 tier yet. So it's going to add to their experience. It's going to make them want to strive to reach something if they want to do the campaign.
Yeah, there's a ton of fun tier 9 and tier 10 ships out there. So I'm glad to see this campaign. I definitely love seeing more content, obviously, but between the fun stuff that they've done with the operations and, the Dunkirk mission that they've got going on right now, which if you haven't played is actually really fun. You should at least, play it a couple times. The campaigns, it's great. Do it at your own pace. I did have someone complaining and saying how much Shinonome was OP and ranked. And it's like, you could get it too. Anyone can get it. It's not like, you have to go out and, paywall and buy this thing. Anyone can do the campaign and get the ship. So you really have no justification for complaining about it in rank since, you can go out and get it too. Go out there and do it. Campaigns at your own time, get it done, enjoy it.
Yeah, and do remember that you can repeat tasks. You won't get the reward again, but you will get the stars or the flags or whatever they are, so that you can progress on if you're having difficulty with some of the tasks, but you find 1 or 2 relatively easy. So for our final topic today, the PTS will also be testing a new smoke timer, which displays a timer for anybody who actually enters the smoke screen. I can see a lot of applications and implications for this change, particularly in competitive play. Only the longest lasting smoke screen is displayed on the timer, but you can switch to your own smoke timer by pressing Alt if you set a smoke. This appears to be a remnant of the changes that were the smoke changes that we talked about earlier. But I'm actually kind of impressed that they took the time to code in something that's so complicated, particularly if the firing thing that was going to happen to decrease the timer was going to, be implemented as well, so that you could see how much you were depleting your smoke.
Yeah, just more info. More info is good, and I know that's always something that you wonder is if how much time's left on your smoke, how much time's left on this person's smoke. So I guess it's a good addition. Yeah,
it definitely kind of helps. That's one less thing that you potentially have to stop and communicate. Especially if you're in a tense battle as a destroyer player, sometimes you don't really have a moment to type a quick message out as your torpedo beating and, trying to stay in cover or, off detection and get those torps off and maneuver. Sometimes you don't have a moment to say anything. So if someone enters your smoke and goes, oh, there's 30 seconds left, I better get ready, to get out of here, rather than, oh, I entered the smoke and then all of a sudden it disappeared and I'm not moving and now everyone's targeting me and shelling me to death. Hey, more info is good.
I think it's also going to be really important for competitive. I know that a lot of time anytime that somebody lays a smoke screen on our team, Kami, they always say it ends at this time. I have a terrible memory. So I always forget, and I usually will end up moving out early. So it'll kind of give me a better idea of what the rhythm of moving in and out of those will be. And hopefully that'll improve people's gameplay.
Well, it's going to improve people's gameplay that actually pay attention. We talk about a lot of these changes, and they're subtle changes, but it's only going to matter to the people that actually, pay attention to them. There's a lot of people that don't. So we encourage from the podcast to pay attention to these changes, read the patch notes that come out, and actually, look and see what's being changed. I have a bad tendency to never read the patch notes, and then I stream the next day. And I'm like, man, when did that change? So don't do what I do and read the patch notes, pay attention, and look for the changes.
So I did just find a screenshot of the Yamamoto commander, and you do get these special things without having to spend points. So they're in addition to the regular commander skills.
Yeah, it's what I suspected.
Does he have any other boosts like Seagal? Does he have any
that's the only boost he gets.
Okay, so
it's a regular commander.
Just the special ones. Okay.
I expect to see him on a lot of Yamatos. I know that's where he's going for me. That's for sure. But I think that's it this week, guys. We had a pretty little shorter at least shorter than last week. That's for sure. But so as a quick apology, I forgot to post the Discord link in the episode description last week. I will do that this week, so you can feel free to join us for discussions in Discord. And you can we always have fun things going on there as well. So that's it for this week, folks. As always, follow us on Facebook and Twitter for updates between podcasts. We, of course, want to thank our amazing Patreon backers. If you're interested in supporting us, please consider becoming a backer yourself. Take care, everyone, and we will see you next week.